going on, y'all? It is week 1 of the college football pick'em. Our first series of 2 or 3 that we're going to try out as we start off the new college football season. And a little breakdown on how it works. I will have 15 games per week for college football. And I think all of the games in the NFL will be on our pick'em. So that's how it's going to work. Win is if we get the pick correct. Loss is if we get the pick incorrect. And that's how it's going to work out. We're going to base it off of my record to see how I do with pick'em. And we're going to get started. We have a handy-dandy list here as we get started. And let's go over in Nebraska, Minnesota, the first game tonight. It is Thursday when I'm recording this. I do apologize for the late recording. More than likely, each of these videos are going to be posted on Tuesday of every week. This week is going to be a little bit off because of this week going into Sunday and Monday. So it might be Wednesday when we post next week's, but other than that, it should be Tuesday from here on out. So let's get started with Nebraska and Minnesota. First year head coach Matt Rhule. Will they get improvement? Yes, I think Matt Rhule is going to majorly improve Nebraska. Just one thing I don't know. One concern that I have for Nebraska is I don't know how many recruits are going to want to be at Nebraska. I'm sorry. I just don't know. Nebraska is in the middle of nowhere. I don't know who elite recruit is going to want to visit Nebraska. I just don't know. And want to commit to Nebraska. I think Matt Rhule can change this program around. Nebraska used to be really good. But it's no longer 1900s, late 1990s, whenever they were good. Minnesota's going to get the win. It's at Minnesota. I think I think Matt Rhule is going to change this team. I think he's going to make it into a good program. I don't know how much they're going to get into. They might make the playoffs here and there, but I don't think they're going to go too deep in the playoffs if we keep the 12-team format. Baylor, Texas State. Baylor's going to win. Notre Dame, Tennessee State. Notre Dame looked really, really good last week. Yes, I know it's Navy, but they looked insanely good, especially in their run game last week versus Navy. They get the win over Tennessee State. Ohio State, Indiana. This game is at Indiana, but I don't think they're going to get the win. I think Ohio State should get the win here. Definitely a college football playoff contender. Penn State, West Virginia. Another college football playoff hopeful. Hype has gone up here this offseason for Penn State, especially this elite defense that they have and the offensive line. They should get the win here versus West Virginia. Tennessee and Virginia here. Tennessee obviously had an elite season last year, beating Alabama. And that's pretty much it. That's all they really did. They got to number 1 for a week. That's what they did do that. And then they got destroyed by South Carolina. That's all they pretty much did. But they did have a really good season with him and Hooker last year. I think they're going to get the win to start off this season versus Virginia. Georgia, UT Martin. Georgia, obviously, on the quest for a three-peat, first in the modern era. And they should start out with a win versus UT Martin. I want to talk about Georgia here for a minute. Georgia they're not going to win the national championship. Now they could. Obviously they could. They're elite. They're the favorites to win it all. I'm going to just tell you they're not winning the national championship. Too much stuff going on. Too much pressure on them this year. New QB. It's hard to do. Clemson was probably the last team to be able to have that kind of year. I believe, Joe Burrow, but he wasn't really new at LSU. Mac Jones wasn't really new at Alabama. Stetson was not really new at Georgia. So the last new QB, new starting QB to win it was Trevor Lawrence in his first season. And I don't think Carson Beck will do the same. But they will start off their season with the win over UT Martin. Oklahoma and Arkansas State. Brent Venables' second year head coach for the Sooners. I think they're going to be majorly improved. 8-4, 9-3, definitely. I don't think they're going to beat Texas. But things could change from till then. I just don't see them beat Texas. I think Oklahoma's going to be really, really improved, though. I think they may have a shot to win or to at least make the Big 12 championship. Washington, Boise State, two really hyped teams. Boise State, one of the favorites to land the group of 5 spot at the New Year's Six Bowls. And Washington, hype has grown over the past several weeks with Michael Penix at QB. Can he be able to do it? Can he lead this Washington Husky team to the first playoff since 2016, I believe, for the Pac-12? They might be able to do that. I could see Washington do this. Are they better than USC? Yes, they are. TCU, Colorado. Colorado got head coach, probably the most interesting head hire. Definitely the most intriguing. Definitely the most talked about. And then obviously we know the story about TCU coming off a miraculous season, getting to the national championship, and that's all they did. They did absolutely nothing else. They scored 1 touchdown, and they got blown out 65-7 in the Natty to Georgia. But congratulations, you're runner-up, whatever that means. But TCU, congrats on a really good season. How can you follow it up? That's what everyone is asking. I think they'll get the win over Colorado to start the season. Colorado, one thing about Colorado and Coach Prime, they're not going to go. They may not even go bowling. They're not going. I know they're not making the playoff. They're not making no New Year's Six game. They're not making no bowl game. They might make a bowl game if they can flip some games that I think that they might be able to win. This is a game that I think they might be able to win. I know TCU lost a lot, including their QB and Quentin Johnston. But I don't think they're going to win this game. But I think if Colorado could flip a few games, they might make a bowl game. But right now I have them 4-8. And Prime's first year, and that's a good year for Colorado. That is a very good year for Colorado, but one thing that they need to do is recruit. And he has not been, I've not seen a lot of that from Colorado. TCU gets the win here. Michigan and ECU. I think Michigan is definitely another Big Ten favorite this year. I think they're the favorite to win it all. In the Big Ten, I think they're easily the favorite to beat Ohio State once again for the third year in a row. And that might happen. I think that definitely will happen at the Big House. It's at Michigan. I don't remember which one's the Big House. But it's at Michigan. And I think they're going to beat Ohio State. One thing that I'm thinking might happen is that division ending in a 3-way tie. Ohio State, Michigan, and Penn State all going 11-1. Ohio State beating Penn State, Penn State beating Michigan, and Michigan beating Ohio State is the way I think it will go down. That might not happen. I don't know. But Penn State, I think, could help and maybe surprise the Big Ten and make the playoff. That is something that is being talked about. Michigan will start their season with a 1-0 victory versus ECU. Rutgers, Northwestern, not really much to talk about here. Rutgers will get the win. Alabama and Middle Tennessee State. Alabama, obviously one of the most talked about teams this year. Some good, some bad. Mainly questions that Alabama has, especially at the number one position where you don't want to have questions at, and that's the QB. Jalen Milroe looking like the favorite. News coming out today, Nick Saban saying that Ty Simpson has improved majorly since the spring game. And we'll see what that means. But I think that might mean that this starting job is not locked up to Jalen Milroe. Because I know that Nick Saban said that this job is not locked up this week. We'll find out the starting QB next week at some point. I even think he said it might even go past week 2. I'm not sure. But Alabama gets the win here. Florida State, LSU, we get into the good game. The top 10 matchup, the matchup everyone is talking about. Matchup that is pivotal for both teams to get into the college football playoff. LSU, Florida State, both teams favorites, possible division winners. Well, Florida State's not in a division anymore with Clemson. So that could happen. Florida State and Clemson, the favorites to go to the ACC title. But a win here will definitely improve their chances at a playoff if they do lose one to Clemson. But last year, then you're going to need to beat Clemson twice to get to that playoff. LSU, Florida State, this game is in Orlando or Jacksonville. It's obviously not home and home, but it is in Florida this year. It was in Louisiana last year. And I believe Florida State got the victory. I think they're going to get the victory here. Clemson Duke. I don't think there's really too much to talk about there. Clemson will get the win and move on 1-0 to start the season. Obviously got a tough schedule with Notre Dame and Florida State both coming to Clemson. That's going to be a couple of big, probably one of the top environments this year where Clemson's going to be. They're going to win versus Duke at Duke on Monday night, Labor Day. So yeah, that's how it's going to work. I'm going to have a little bit of a recap of this week's next week after the Clemson Duke game. It'll be a quick 2, 3 minute, 4 minute video, somewhere around there. We'll see. We'll see what I have to talk about. We'll see if there's any surprises. But it's going to be a short video because we also have to record our next week's Pick'em as well as NFL Pick'em, as well as we'll have 3 videos next week. And then I don't know if I'm going to do, well, I don't need to talk about the schedule. But anyway, that's how it's going to work. I think, and then I'm going to put a prediction at the end of the video to see where I could stand after this week. I think I could go 15-0, 13-2, something like that. The only 2 major questions that I have, well, 3 games that I think could be different. Michigan, Nebraska, I think, or Minnesota, Nebraska. I think Minnesota couldn't get the win there. Rutgers, Northwestern, that game could go either way. Florida State, LSU could go either way. Maybe Duke and Clemson. I'm looking at a 13-2 record, I think, to start the year, which is really, really good. But also, Not surprising with how many games are not that bad this year or this week. But yeah, that's going to do it. I'll see y'all at 8 Eastern for the start of week 1 of college football. Florida, Utah, Minnesota, Nebraska. I'll see y'all then. Make sure you guys like, subscribe, turn on post notifications. I'll see y'all at 8 p.m. Eastern. Peace out.